Hi friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan. Now it's been a few days since the teaser trailer has come out for Star Wars Episode 9, Rise of Skywalker, and it's given me a bit of time to sit down and think about things. Now, besides Rey's really cool slow-mo backflip, Kylo putting some wicked highlights on his helmet, and Lando returning to the Falcon as if nothing has changed in the last 3 years, the main thing that I noticed was the wreckage of the second Death Star, and of course the chilling laugh of old Palpy McScrotum face. Now, as we know, teaser trailers, especially Star Wars teaser trailers, will use footage that either won't be used in the film or have little significance to the film. But the last 5 seconds of the trailer was definitely very important. As we guessed half a year ago, Palpatine most likely will be coming back in one shape or form, which really does make sense. For one, if the sequel trilogy is about saying goodbye to the old, well, Palpatine is very old. And more importantly, he is beloved by most fans. And let's be honest, J.J. Abrams is really in a tough position. He has to start off the last episode of a trilogy without a real bad guy. Kylo has flipped back and forth between redemption mode and complete asshole so many times, it's hard to really understand where he is now on a moral scale. General Hux is a ragdoll, and Snoke, who was the obvious choice, was cut in half. And without a clear villain, you can't really tell a compelling story or create a compelling conflict, and there isn't really that much time to build up another villain that's worthy of a trilogy. So J.J. Abrams is probably gonna have to take a shortcut here. Palpatine is that shortcut because he needs very little introduction. Most fans, even the very casual ones, will know who he is and what exactly he's about. The very casual viewers need very little context about who he is. If they don't know who he is for some reason, they just need to know that he's a bad guy. And that's it, because they're mainly here for the large space battles and lightsaber duels. This might as well be another Guardians of the Galaxy for them. So right away you have a win-win situation for J.J. Abrams. He doesn't have to spend the entire movie trying to create a new character. He can just focus on writing a plot that's interesting. The other compelling aspect of the setup is it keeps Kylo Ren's redemption story and still plausible. With Palpatine still in the game, Kylo all of a sudden doesn't look all that evil. The hesitation he had when he killed Han continued with Leia, and then of course he killed Snoke for selfish reasons, but taken at face value. He killed his dad, which was a dick move, but he didn't kill his mom, which is good, and then he took out the leader of the First Order, which also is good. Palpatine, a true Sith mastermind with plenty of hidden resources still across the galaxy, represents a threat not only to Rey, but also Kylo. And we know Palpatine kind of ended the rule of 2 for the Sith. He was more about the rule of 1 and having several apprentices and assassins duke it out approach. Very old school, very old Republic Sith. So he would definitely see Kylo Ren as the spoiled brat that he is, and seek to destroy him as well. Now, Ian McDiarmid does come onto stage after the teaser plays and tells the production people to roll the teaser one more time in his classic Palpatine voice. So it's pretty clear that he'll be back in one shape or form, and yeah, he could still definitely play the role. He hasn't really aged that much. Now, on to the trailer's last scene. Why is it important? Well, first, how do we know it's Endor? For one, it can't be the first Death Star. That blew up while on approach to the moon of Yavin 4, and it still had the gas giant Yavin on the way when Skywalker destroyed it, so most likely all the debris fell into the gas giant. 2, Yavin is mostly a jungle planet with very few large bodies of water. Endor is a forest world, but in Legends at least there were giant bodies of water on the planet. As a matter of fact, Ewoks would build small fishing villages on the shore of these tiny seas. Now, the entire area around the crashed Death Star 2's focusing dish is pretty barren. The massive forest of Endor can't really be seen. And this actually goes towards another theory we made a year or 2 ago that actually might now be true as well. And that's the destruction of the second Death Star actually had a massive consequence on the local environment of Endor. I'm actually starting to get paranoid that Disney's watching this channel. I should probably stop talking so much crap about them. Think about it, the Death Star was easily the size of a small moon at 200 kilometers in diameter, and Endor was just a bit larger than our own moon. Meaning the amount of debris falling from the Death Star onto the planet was probably catastrophic. Now it's said that the Rebel fleet set up a network of shields and tractor beams to prevent the wreckage from crashing down onto the planet. What they most likely don't explain is that the majority of the wreckage from the initial explosion definitely made it to the surface, ignited the atmosphere in several locations, created several incredibly hot pockets of air, and caused the mostly forested planet to catch fire, causing the entire planet to essentially go up in flames. The trees on Endor were also extremely massive and created infernos that basically no beings would be able to escape from. We go into more detail here if you are curious about the science behind it all. Now, why do I think that happens? Well, the Rebel Alliance, or the New Republic, whatever you want to call it, wasn't some just and righteous organization. They were just another ruling party, an alternative to the Empire. Chancellor Mon Mothma and Princess Leia and the other rebel leaders understood the importance of propaganda and cover-ups. And the destruction of a semi-sentient race on Endor wouldn't really look good as their first official act as an opposition government. For instance, it wouldn't really matter if your new political party won a Senate seat in, say, West Virginia, if while you were running, you killed all the puppies in West Virginia with fire. But logistically speaking, it probably would have been impossible for the tiny rebel fleet to capture all of the pieces of debris from the Death Star, especially the initial bunch from the explosion. Because remember, they were too busy hauling ass and trying to escape the blast radius.
Move the fleet away from the Death Star!
They would not have had enough time to aim their tractor beams at the thousands, if not millions, of incredibly fast-moving pieces of debris. Most likely what happened was they constructed a net out of tractor beams and shields once everything settled down. The only pieces they were able to prevent from crashing down would be the ones slowly drifting towards the planet from the newly formed asteroid belt. And then how long do you think those rebel ships stayed in orbit? A month? A week? A day? Probably a few days, because the war was far from over and the rebels were still completely outgunned by the Empire almost everywhere else in the galaxy. Obviously, we could be wrong because this is Star Wars. Sometimes things just don't make sense. In Star Wars, maybe one piece of Death Star wreckage drifted into deep space, collided with a space whale, and then took it on a hyperspace journey to another side of the galaxy. Again, it's Star Wars, so who knows? So why is the Death Star 2 important to Palpatine? Well, this we covered in another video, actually one of the first videos we had on this channel. The first reason could be that Palpatine physically collided with some kind of shield generator inside of the reactor shaft, allowing the energy beneath the reactor shield to fly upwards. Another possibility is that upon Palpatine's death, he released a huge wave of anger driven by Force energy, known as a dark side burst. Now we know it's impossible for a Sith to turn into a Force ghost. Whereas the Jedi become one with the Force, the Sith have always tried to bend it towards their will, which is usually why things go wrong in a very Pet Sematary way. Sometimes dead is better. But there is a way for a Sith to remain sentient and very much alive after dying, and that's by attaching their sentience and essence onto a physical object. That's what Darth Bane did in the Clone Wars, and that's what Exar Kun did in Legends. He bound his spirit to a temple on Yavin. In the spirit form, Palpatine is still conscious, but he would have some problems controlling the environment around him or influencing anything. But that doesn't mean he can't control people using various Force techniques and have them do his bidding. He could even potentially possess people, which he definitely did in Legends a lot. It also means that if you are at all Force sensitive and in the general location of his death scream, you'll most likely feel cold and terrified. That's the kind of footprint someone that evil and powerful will usually leave in the Star Wars galaxy. In Legends, both Mara Jade and Leia sense Emperor Palpatine when they return to Endor. Now, for one reason or another, Rey and crew are also seeking out the location of the Death Star. There's been a lot of talk on the internet about some kind of hologram with Palpatine giving Rey and Kylo instructions for some ancient weapon or maybe the location of some ancient treasure. Most likely, whatever Rey and the company are going after, Kylo will be there too. It's very possible, in my opinion, that the whole Palpatine Observatory storyline might come back to play as well. We found out a few years ago Palpatine had a diabolical plan in case he died, known as the contingency plan. It involved several phases and included destroying several planets, including royal imperial worlds. The idea was if Palpatine couldn't rule over it, then the rebels sure as hell wouldn't be able to either. The other half of Palpatine's plan involved a Hunger's Game-like thinning out of Imperial forces, until a select few chosen Imperials gathered together and ventured off into the unknown region of space to create a new empire. Palpatine had seeded the edge of his empire with observatories to look into the notoriously dangerous unknown region, where wandering black holes and space whales could very quickly end your hyperspace journey. Also, within each observatory was a huge cache of crazy weapons, ancient Sith artifacts, live specimen, and crazy technology. I wouldn't be surprised if we once again see this storyline become important. But as far as what is on the second Death Star, well, that's a little bit more confusing. We can probably assume that in Palpatine's throne room, he has a private collection of goodies hidden. It's also possible that the Resistance is looking for some kind of hidden technology, piece of equipment, or maybe even some kind of raw material that is hidden within the second Death Star's wreckage. Like, say, a giant kyber crystal, or maybe the thing they're looking for is one of those creepy sentinels, programmed droids that were tasked by Palpatine to carry out his contingency plan that also had his face. Or maybe Rey and the Resistance are seeking to do what the Imperial Remnant did after they were defeated by the Rebels at Jakku. Maybe they were looking for those ancient star maps for a route to safety within the unknown region, where they could once again rebuild. But perhaps the most likely scenario is that J.J. Abrams has created something completely new that will be impossible for a super Star Wars fan like me to figure out and then post the theory on YouTube with, which I hope really is the case because I want to be surprised. Anyway, let me know in the comments section below what you think about the new trailer and hearing Palpatine's voice. Also, don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification button so you don't miss out on the rest of our coverage of Star Wars 9. As usual, thanks for joining us today. If you're watching this, you are Generation Tech.